There are two gardens in the Bible that define the story arc of humanity. The first is the Garden of Eden, Hebrew for pleasure, the garden from which man fell in Adam. The second is the Garden of Gethsemane, Aramaic for the oil press, the crushing place. It's a garden from which mankind arose in Christ Jesus. And every person who is alive, it's their lot in life to, at one time or another, walk through both of those gardens. Every man, Jesus teaches, the sun shines on the just and the unjust, and the rain falls on the just and the unjust. It's our lot. If we are to be alive, if we are to be human, we will have pleasure, and we will have times of tribulation, times of suffering, times of crushing. If we are to be the sons of God, if we are to be the people of God, then we have to learn to navigate relationship with God, both in Eden and in Gethsemane. David writes a psalm, Psalm 34, says, I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praise will continually be in my mouth. And I've heard it read all my life. As I grew older, I started to study where David was in his life when he wrote this psalm. It was when the Lord saved him from the hand of King Saul. So when David penned this psalm, he was on the run from a king who he had served righteously, who was unjustly trying to kill him, who was his father-in-law. He was robbed of his reputation. He was robbed of his honor, and he had to play like a madman to survive in the face of a king who was familiar with Saul. Stripped of all honor, stripped of all relationship, with his life in danger, he picks up his pen and he writes a psalm, and he says, I will bless the Lord at all times. And if that is to be our confession, we have to have language for praise in difficulty. We have to have God-focused, Christocentric, edifying language for praise that does not glorify the pain, but in the face of the pain, glorifies the Creator. And this project came to me in one of the darkest seasons of my life, and one of the darkest times of my life. And I think every single song on the project is, in one way or another, a spontaneous song. They weren't songs that I wrote to have an album. They were songs the Lord gave me to live. These songs carried me for a year. And I felt a strong mandate to share them because there's so many other people who are going through those crushing times where they need God like air. And so all of these songs are vertical in nature in that they don't focus on the problem. They don't focus on the brokenness or the frustration or the downcast heart or the shattering of dreams. But in the face of them all, they focus on the Master. If I want anyone to walk away with anything from this project, it is the divinity and the humanity of Jesus. The theological term for him is the anthropos. He's the God-man. That's why men couldn't comprehend them. They thought God would send a dictator to overtake the world. But God entered into the brokenness of humanity, right? In the vulnerability of a child. He wept, he was indignant, he was frustrated. And in the garden, he struggled with what he was called to do. He agonized over what was to come, which was to take all of the darkness, all of the brokenness of humanity into his own servant body. I think the first of these songs that the Lord gave me was communion. And we were actually taking communion at a church here with some dear friends. And during communion, I broke the cracker, and I heard the Lord say to me, I know how it feels to be broken. And I was like, oh boy, you know. And then I finished, I went on, and then I drank the cup, and he says to me, I know how it feels to be empty. It's the vulnerability, the humility, and the humanity of Jesus to submit himself to suffering, to brokenness. Hebrews calls him the high priest, and he's a good high priest because he's touched, he knows how it feels. He knows how infirmity feels. He knows how brokenness feels. We have this, God, do you see me? God, do you feel me? This illusion of separation that we've carried since the fall of Adam, as if God doesn't feel all things. And so I know this project is to meet people in that season, but I think the most comforting thing about it is that he doesn't just watch our suffering with compassion, but he entered into our suffering in loving kindness and in mercy. And he took our stripes, he took our depression, our brokenness, you know. It's a completely different story. And it provides a hope, not that situations will change, but it provides a hope that love himself, the God himself, is with you and hurting with you and navigating Gethsemane with you, you know. It's hope that we all get out of the garden. You know, we all come out of those seasons of suffering. What I'd want people to take away from this is they don't have to go through it alone.